Hello everybody. So back with another video. I should note that this might be a video that's actually was recorded some time ago by the time you're seeing it, because I just wanted to go ahead and record some things that would maybe give me something to edit down the line and kind of keep the hobby going, in case I'm not feeling up to being in front of the camera. Today's video might be one of those videos that I recorded a little while ago and I'm just now posting, and it's a response to Jack at the Vinyl Voyage. Jack is a channel that was a more recent discovery to me. He responded to my Sad Bastard tag. That was how I first discovered him, and I've followed his channel ever since. I don't watch every video, but I check in with you guys. I loved Jack's quiz thing. That was really funny. Even as overkill, Jack, as you were with the laugh track, it was still really fun to watch. Jack had invited me to be a part of it, and I totally chickened out. The video that Jack posted that inspired me was 7 albums from one genre from seven decades. I'm pretty sure it was his idea. A little embarrassed if I overlooked that it wasn't. But it inspired me, and I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it with alt country, Americana, country rock, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to do the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, but I'm also going to do the 2020s. So there you go. So let's start with the 60s. This is one of the more well-known artists from the 60s into the 70s that was hugely influential on country rock and later alt country bands, and that's Doug Sahm and the Sir Douglas Quintet. Sir Douglas Quintet plus 2, Honky Blues. This was when they started to kind of bring a little bit more country into their sound, but for the most part, it's still a very kind of bluesy rock, R&B-ish kind of album. But there's moments with jazz in there. Again, some of the country stuff, like Our In-Laws Really Outlaws, the opening track. But a really just cool, adventurous kind of ramshackle of an album from when did this come out? 68, I think? Mendocino is my favorite. And it's probably more true to country rock than this one is, but I've talked about Mendocino before. It's my favorite Doug Sahm album. It's one of my favorite albums of all time.
All I can give you, something just to do with you now. Oh, lot of peace of mind.
Sticking with the country rock kind of vibe, but also bringing in some R&B as well, and that's Sandra Rhodes. Where's Your Love Been? This is an outstanding record. It involves some great players, Steve Holt, Butch Johnson. There's a chorus group called the Joint Venture on here. Now, Sandra Rhodes was in a group that wrote their own material, performed their own material, but also worked as backup singers and backup in a backup group in a lot of recording sessions around Memphis in the 60s and into the 70s. She's the type of singer that I feel could sing just about anything. She can cover R&B, she can cover country, she can sing rock. This was recorded at Sun Studio, so a lot of history there. I just love this record. It came out in 72 or 73. Sandra Rhodes, Where's Your Love Been? Fantastic country rock with R&B kind of infused in it.
The same way that I am sometimes, we bring each other down. Then I replace you with a perfect body, a pretty face, but no mind. And I find the feelings coming back to me, and I think I love you again.
I used to have several more albums from the 80s that fit into alt country, or the early formation of what you would kind of call true alt country that really blossomed in the 90s, right? Albums by like bands like Rank and File, like the Lone Justice album that everybody has. Albums like that, right? The Beat Farmers, records like that. I just didn't hold on to them. I've talked about it before. I'm one of those guys that trims his collection pretty frequently. And even though those albums were cool to have as a collector and somebody that's a fan of that genre, they just weren't albums that I just turned to a lot. A few have survived. A band over in the UK, the Mekons, Fear and Whiskey. And this is an absolute classic album. This usually pops up on greatest alt country albums ever type lists or whatever. Is it an alt country record? Kind of hard to say. To me, the Mekons have always kind of sounded like the Clash going country, folk. A lot of the earlier Mekons records especially, they sound more indebted to kind of Scotch-Irish folk and English folk kind of tradition, right? But then they do bring in a little bit of like American country influence, American folk influence, especially like your early guys like Seeger and Woody Guthrie and stuff like that, right? It's still kind of indebted to a little bit of punk, but probably more post-punk. And at times even like a few like new wavy vibes, right? So a nice fusion of styles here. The Mekons, I like the Mekons, but I'm not as much of a Mekons head as some other people out there are, and I know that they have some truly devoted fans. I actually kind of got more into the Waco Brothers, Langford's project, one of his other projects outside of the Mekons. Back in the late 90s, I bought a few of their CDs from Bloodshot. That stuff is definitely more alt country than Mekons are, purely. Definitely an influential album, an important album to exploration of like where country music can go outside, its traditional boxes.
And as I've seen you for the first time, something whispers, looking at you in desperation, knowing nothing ever happens. I wanted to say fall in love, I wanted to say fall in love with me, I wanted to say fall in love. It'll be alright.
So here's another album and another band that I don't really consider alt country, but they ran in all those circles, and a lot of these guys still do. This is the band Centromatic out of Texas, but this is a reissue of their 1996 debut, Redo the Stacks. It was recorded by Matt Pence, who would basically be the touring drummer for Centromatic. All of the instruments, I believe all of the instruments, maybe Matt Pence plays a few things, but I believe by and large, this was all played by Will Johnson. And then the band became more of a band, like, as time, like, went on. I've always said that Centromatic honestly has a lot more in common with Guided by Voices than they would Sunvolt or Uncle Tupelo or Wilco or whatever, whatever the Bottle Rockets or whatever other alt country bands you can think of, old 97s. I feel like it's much more kind of like an indie rock slant than it is an alt country slant. That said, there are songs, certain songs, especially like the ballads the slower songs, where they sound a little bit more like folk country songs. And there is that kind of Texas influence as well. But also, like Guided by Voices, this has 22 tracks on it. A lot of them are really short, and all of them are very lo-fi, but just outstanding songwriting. And Will Johnson has continued, even though I don't follow his solo career nearly as close as I did Centromatic's discography. There are a couple of Will Johnson albums that I'm really into, and the guy is just highly respected by the musician community and the circles that he runs in.
I could find a way to betray you, them watching all these ones, one, twos, and glad and sequins, nooses operate, choosers, but we're so damned elegant today.
Okay, my 2000s pick is Bramble Rose by Tiff Merritt. Now, once you get kind of into this period, especially, I'd say around the mid-2000s, you start to find more artists. They're a little bit more straightforward indebted to country and folk, and dropping some of the sound that you would classify as more alt country, right? So if you ever called artists around this period alt country or Americana or whatever, it was typically because their music just didn't fit on country radio, mainstream country radio. These artists were typically ignored or just wanted nothing to do with kind of like the Nashville machine, right? And Tiff Merritt is one of those artists. Recorded by Ethan Johns, Benmont Tench is on here, couple of other musicians, so it kind of fits in with the same kind of crew that Ryan Adams was working with on Heartbreaker and Gold. The title track on this album would later be recorded by Don Henley on a solo record that he did that was later in his career, and one of the kind of like a country record, a more country record than what you would have heard the Eagles do or something. But, who cares about Don Henley, really? Tiff Merritt, Bramble Rose, excellent album from 2002.
I know what they told you, 'cause I seen the way that they do. I'm sick of the hard way. I'm gonna walk right up to you, tell you, honey, baby, you can't come wrong. Honey, you don't look good. Baby, you can't run round just anybody in the neighborhood.
Okay, this next record is by a singer-songwriter that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, Famous Last Words, from a Vinyl Community video. But yeah, his name's Cory Branan. And this was his, I don't even know how many, fourth or fifth album. This is his fourth or fifth album. It came out in 2014. The no-hit wonder. Cory Branan is one of those artists that I say that I almost like him and his vibe more than I do his discography as a whole. He has albums that are very eclectic, style-wise, and sometimes it's cool and sometimes it's hard to maintain focus. This is probably his most focused record overall. So to me, he's kind of less punk than Lucero, but more punk than bands like Turnpike Troubadours. Or this is a great record. He has an incredible sense of humor, and if you're not into lyrics, this might just not like resonate with you. Some of my favorites on here are the You Make Me, the title track, Sour Mash, All the Rivers in Colorado. What a it's an incredible ballad. It's check out All the Rivers in Colorado. It's beautiful play on words. Excellent stuff.
You say you wanna know what true love feels like. It's the next best thing to death. It feels like after an elbowed windpipe, just before the next breath. Just before the next breath. So with your next breath, sing a song for the no-hit wonder. Though it isn't one of his, he'd sing, shovel me under. Boys, it is what it is. It is what it is.
And for 2024, we're going to go back to the UK. Believe it or not. I cannot believe it, but we are. The band is called Brown Horse. And they're based out of Norwich. And this is their first full length called Reservoir. Their newest album came out in the spring of this year, and it was not available anywhere in the United States. So I had to order it overseas. I'm not as huge of a fan of this album. I think their new one is 10 times better. But this definitely has the makings. The last 3 tracks, believe it or not, are kind of the ones that I go back to the most. Silver Bullet, Outtakes, and Called Away. But the tonality of the guitars is very much in my wheelhouse. There's a strong Neil Young, Crazy Horse kind of vibe, as well as, a lot of the ways that the guitars sounded on those more electric, like Uncle Tupelo records. They are definitely one of the bands that's part of this new kind of wave of alt country, which I am thoroughly enjoying. And I refuse to say, oh, well, I already lived through that years ago. These bands have nothing to offer. That's a shitty attitude. Because I think these kids are putting out, this younger generation is putting out some amazing, amazing music. And it's really cool to kind of see this like second wave of 90s alt country, a brand more closer to 90s alt country. And I love to see it. I love to see it. So Brown Horse, they're a good band, but I as much as I don't recommend this one, this is kind of like a 7 out of 10. Their newest one is much better, much better.
Reach forward, reach fingers, touch the rest. Oh, we might be over for them, but it ain't over for us. Separate one true feeling in about 1,000 years. Send a partner, there's something you want to hear.
There you go. 7 albums with country, alt country, Americana, whatever you want to call it, from 7 different decades for Jack, my buddy of the Vinyl Voyage. I hope everybody's doing well out there. And yeah, we'll talk to you later in another video. All right, bye.
Digital gramophone makes no sense.